God said, look, I'm going to give you the platform. God said, look, there aren't that many of us. Yeah, we fill the room, but if we go outside, we're a remnant in this city. People who really know God. People, forget who know God. I'm going to do a Pastor Trey. Forget people who know God. People who want to know God. Can we just go there? I'm not going to even pass judgment on who's a good Christian. Can I just talk about people with a heart that's purely wanting the truth? Where you say, finally enough. Finally enough lies. Finally enough half-truth. Finally enough religion and going to church to satisfy my conscience. But when I go home, I'm going to be cussing and drinking and acting like everybody else out there with me. How many people want him? When you make yourself in that number, and some of you know what I mean because you saw so many hypocritical Christians, it took you this long to come back into a church. Come on. How many are there at this point? There's so few sold out for him that he will take everyone who is completely surrendered and make them a leader in their land. Why? Because the earth is drowning. No, I take it back. They're dehydrated, lacking truth. Dehydrated, lacking real leadership. People with real vision. And guess what? On my own, I'm no wiser than anybody else. But because I know the living God, and all I have to do is get in his presence and let him give me direction, I have truth. And the resource that I'm using is the same one that you have. God is wanting people who will say, God, not only will I sing to you, not only will I put something in the envelope, but I will actually seek what your purpose is for me and perform it. And then when I do that, when I seek your purpose for me, I'm going to be willing to serve. And this is it. This is the point. Because I'm going to put that on everybody. You see, when God started showing me visions of where he wanted to take me, when I was finally willing to receive, and I'll say now that some of you haven't received it because you were scared of it when you saw it. And so you're going, God, show me, and he showed you and you rejected it. I don't know who that's for, but ask God, is there anything that you've spoken to me that I've rejected because I want to receive it now, Lord Jesus? But he showed me things that were so far out. And I looked at where I went and go, huh. And you know, every now and then I even got a little testy with God. Like, what's up with where I am? I thought I was that woman. But you know what? A to Z is a long walk. And you know what? Before you can lead, you have to serve. This is the humility that God is talking about. Now, this part might cut a little, but it's okay. If you have been talking about me, that's what I do best. I don't know what she's talking about. You've been eating. I'm talking to a group, and you know who I am when I say it, because the Spirit is bearing you witness. You've been eating. You've been getting the word. Pastor Teray's been feeding you regularly. You've been getting good sermons. You leave, you feel great. You know, you've been getting fed. You've been getting nourished. But you aren't pouring it out. You're pouring it out into your dream, but you're not pouring it out. You're not serving on the ground. God is going to take you to that place, but the way that he's going to prepare you is up to him. And sometimes preparation for center stage is sweeping. Sometimes preparation for center stage is feeding the homeless. Sometimes preparation for owning large businesses and ruling an industry is to serve with church finances and administrative things. Sometimes getting there as a producer means working on the church tech team. Sometimes it takes the small steps that Jesus talked about in Luke 19. You were faithful in little, and so here is your much. And so sometimes what we're doing is we're just looking for much. And we're skipping the fact that he said you were faithful in little. And so here, you have multiplied this by 10. So here are your 10 cities. He didn't just give him 10 cities. He allowed him to show himself first. And it's not that God doesn't know who you are. God knows who you are. He knows what he put in you. But you need to know who you are. You need to know what he put in you. And sometimes you need to, no, every time you need to work it out. Being faithful in the smaller things before you are ready and prepared to work it out in the venue that he's called you to. So God's calling for humility and servant-heartedness because he's saying, you know what, I want my people to know that they're great. I want them to know that they're loved. But I don't want them to be caught up in arrogant pride, thinking that they're too called to serve on the ground as I prepare them. Don't be spiritually gluttonous, eating and not exercising what he's giving you. You don't need to wait. Some people are just waiting for their big break. Are you just going to sit in your house until the big break comes? Work. God, how do I work? Ask. Ask for that word that we've ignored to come back that we can obey it. Because some of us have already been called to serve in places and things, and we brushed it off looking for that bigger, more glamorous, more shiny thing. And God is saying, I'd love to give you that diamond, but you're not ready to take care of it yet. I give it to you now, you break it. Humble. And you know what the beautiful thing about that call to be humble is? It's not the guy who's perfect. It's the one whose heart is right. Because Jesus knows that if your heart is right, he can make you into everything that you need to be. He has no problem molding a pure heart. So you take care of your heart. You seek that pure heart. You be honest now, be real. I've been there. I felt like I was too good to do that job. I didn't want to give up my Saturday evening. We have people cleaning the church now, but there was a time I didn't want to clean the church. Can I just pay somebody to clean the church? I made a lot at that point, you know. It's not about us anymore. If you know Jesus, if you don't know him, boy, are you in for something? If you know him, you've got it. You've got the biggest it there is. Everything else is just learning how to grow in it and becoming who he made you be. He called you to be, not because you're not already safe, but because there's so many people who need you. See, once you get him, it stops being about you and it starts being about the people who are abused and crying and dying and hungry, whether physically or spiritually around you. It starts being about the people he's in love with, who you see every day. And the more time you spend with God, the more your eyes change and you start seeing people differently. You're at Starbucks and you're at the mall and you're at a movie premiere and you're at the ice cream place, man. You're at Yogurtland and you start seeing people differently. And you start seeing with his heart in his eyes. And that's when you know, I've crossed over. I think my heart is becoming more like Jesus. And he's got it for you because he's made you great. He wants the world for you. And you don't need to be afraid of his dream. It's amazing. And any amount of sorrow that it comes with is nothing compared to what you go through without him. And it's nothing compared to the glory and the joy of knowing that you're living your life in purpose. Man, you haven't lived until you're walking in your purpose and you know it. You can feel it. It's like, it's like living at Disneyland for a little kid. Even the scary things are an adventure. So that's all. God, I just want